he responded to Sign of Times and did something vastly, radically different. And I really think this is, I mean, the world has changed overnight, and in a gigantic way. And it could change with AI, it could be changing in really bad ways, or it can be changing in really good ways. I don't know if you're familiar with effective altruism movements, but really a big part of this movement is about leveraging AI to make a positive impact in the world. And that is kind of an emergent theme all over the world happening. So we want to be on the front end and we want to win, not have bad things win. So you may want to take a picture of this. If you don't, this links to my Google Drive that has all of my GPTs, all the instructions, all the links, and those are shareable with anybody that has the link, your students included, which lends itself to a question. Let's say you do. Right now, the university isn't supporting GPT, $20 a month. I found it immensely good, but I also found that my students are getting it for my classes. Like maybe they resist at the beginning and then they see what they're able to do with it and they're using it. And, you know, I hope we can get over that barrier at some point, but you got it? Did that actually go to a link? Awesome. Okay. So just two things, and I'm going to kind of bring up two things. This was a paper that came out, the one on the left, came out in July. It has since been retracted because people were concerned about the scholarly approach. However, since it's been retracted, GPT 4.5 Turbo has come out. And to be frank, every assumption they made in this paper is equally valid now. GPT 4.5 can be used to solve every single math and electrical engineering problem with proper questioning and prompting. So it doesn't just give you an answer like that, but if you work with it, ask questions, own the learning, it can get you to the end. And I would say that's the case for pretty much everything. So the second paper that came out, Ethan Mollick in 2023, this was just like 4 months ago. He had done a study with Boston Consulting Group, and Boston Consulting Group had all 145,000 of their employees worldwide engaged in an experiment to test the value of ChatGPT. And they divided the population of employees into 3 groups. By the way, he's a thought leader, Harvard Business School. He's just been amazing. He was on the front end of OpenAI as it was in test phase. So he's been working at it for about 3 years. 3 groups. One, a group that had never used ChatGPT at all. A group that had never used it, but now had access to it. So the first group didn't have access to it. And the third group was, they had an hour of training. And what they found was an increase in accuracy of like 8 tasks that they asked everybody to do, 40% improvement in accuracy and a 40% improvement in speed that they were able to accomplish it in. And that's without training. Those people who are actively using it and integrating it into every part of their experience would tell you it's not 40%. It's like 10x. And I really feel that my productivity is today something like 10 times more than it would have been previous. I mean, the very fact that I put together 40 GPT in, you know, a month and a half, all of which are rooted in research, you're going to see, is an incredible amount of, you know, accomplishment in just a short amount of time. I'm seeing that with my students. The kind of projects that they're able to take on are not thing. They're not little, they're big, they're impactful. And especially in light of the Blue Sky Initiative, where we're talking about impactful experiential learning, I actually think we can think bigger as a result of the GPT. So, yeah, sure.
I'm coming from social science, political science, and I guess I'm kind of losing the thread here. So I am coming at this from AI as ed. And it seems to me you're coming at this from AI. You're an evangelist for this.
Well, I'm coming at it as AI for equity in education and sustainability. Those are my two main drivers for my whole life.
Okay.
So
I guess from my perspective as a social scientist, I'm struggling with this perspective. So I'm wondering how I can connect with it. Okay. And so I thought it's not fair for me to say, I thought you were going to start somewhere different, but I did.
okay.
Right? So I just wonder, have you
there are so many ethical issues that need to be addressed, and I'm including them in everything that I'm doing. Ethical issues, like, let's talk about it. To be honest, I think we should be talking about AI with a distinctive University of Dayton lens, so that we're making sure that we're doing it in the right way, and that we're talking about the ethics and the morality of using it. I'm really just focusing today on the value of its use in educating based upon individual learners' capabilities. Listen, imagine this. Go into a classroom, and I think there are ethical issues with this. You go into a classroom, and you say at the beginning of a class, every student is on the same page when I start, and they're all capturing what I'm saying to them at the same pace. That's not ethical. I mean, we are now in a position where we can understand who that learner is and tailor the education to that learner more effectively than we've ever been able to do in the past. That's what gets me excited. That's what I'm going to be sharing. Okay. Yeah, that adds to my productivity. Great. But my productivity is all aimed at one end. I'm really working on AI education technology for the unpowered people in the world, the people that don't have access to power, about 1 billion to 2 billion people worldwide. And to be honest, education is essential, and and to be honest, it's about, for me, providing equity and addressing sustainability on a worldwide level. So I feel like my motivations are, not just geeky technical. It's like, let's build things that can make a difference in the world. So thank you for saying that.
And like the context.
Yeah. And it's why I'm an evangelist, because I see the positive impact. I see also the negative impact, and that scares me. And by the way, I'm not worried about Terminator happening. I'm worried about humans losing the desire to think and grow. And, I'm worried about the powerful owning it and not making it accessible to all. So lots of things. It's why we need a comprehensive approach for how University of Dayton does this, to be honest. We also need experimenters to test and try.
And we also need spaces to have these
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, that's sort of my hope is just creating a space, and whether or not, because truthfully for me, I feel like I don't know enough in order to have a particular opinion, and so, yeah, so ideally, and I know that there will be spaces, on campus, especially this coming semester, to engage more conversations about AI, but, at this point, I kind of feel like it's just in time as we're thinking about building the spring syllabi, being aware of, just some of the different technologies there and the impact.
I'd also say, please use it, try it. You have to see it from a lens that is your lens and see how it can strengthen what you're trying to do. I mean, that's effectively what I was trying to do. I'm actually I've started a nonprofit with a person in Texas, and this is our company. We're about ready to launch, but our focus is educating with equity for the developing world primarily, but also for underserved urban areas in the US and the rest of the world. We've got something like 25 languages now, 20 different dialects within many of those. A really great voice interface. So we're trying to build a unit learning technology that enables people to just talk, even if they aren't literate, they would still be able to learn. We by the way, have somebody, several people working with us from the social sciences arena who are helping to guide our thinking, especially educational psychologists that are participating with us. Yeah. I like to say what we've been doing is thinking about trying to measure personality, trying to understand who the learner is. And that is like primary. How can we do that without having them, for example, creativity test in the educational psychology areas like the Torrance creativity metric. There are other ones like that. But recent paper just came out that showed that you can do it just by having an AI conversation and take away a lot of the, and actually do it with less variability than were you to have multiple people coding papers. So I feel confident that we have like a good social science team supporting what we're trying to do as well. So I'm going to talk about some learner profile, what we're doing in measuring learner. I want to give you an example of a GPT that helps us characterize the learner, who they are, effectively taking what we had developed in our software and just moving it into a GPT. Tailored learning pedagogies, so really trying to develop, leverage, utilize pedagogy that could work for different kinds of learners. And in my classes, I'm actually giving students choices about which of the pedagogy they want to employ. AI skill development. This is really important. For example, working with my students last semester, they felt, some of them responded that this was the first time in my whole academic career where I've had the opportunity to be truly creative. We've repressed it. And yet it's innate. I mean, it's there. It just needs to be pulled out. So one of the things that we're trying to think about is how to refine and develop those skills in our students. Creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, things that the humanities frankly do a whole lot better at than engineering does. It's why a distinctive AI education at the University of Dayton, frankly, humanities and social sciences are central to that distinctiveness and essential for us to have on board.
I'll just share in the chat, Dan Birdsong just noted that the podcast On Being has a few episodes on AI and the ethical questions surrounding them. So I just want to share that.
On Being?
On Being?
Oh, Being. Yeah.
On Being with Krista Tippett.
Thanks,
Good.
Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Diversity and inclusion, when you have non-diverse students, it's often hard to engage them with diverse ideas and diverse peoples. And to be honest, one of the things I've tried to do is enable them to actually stimulate at least bringing in diverse perspectives and perspectives outside their own discipline, and built some AIs to do that. Assessment, which is especially in humanities, social sciences, arts, kind of a big chunk of your time reviewing and evaluating papers. Whether I like this or not, I have developed an AI grading app that, and by the way, if this is the only thing we do with AI, shame on us. We can do it, but this should not be what we do and make the only thing that we can do. It can save us a lot of time, and frankly can do better than me, and you're going to see in a second. It's more thorough in its comments than I have time to be. And still, it's also something I can share with my students before they submit, that they can get a response and feedback and then improve what they have. And anyway, and I'll talk a little bit about how I'm integrating into my courses. I thought I could just kind of walk through one of these. Maybe Leslie could be my guinea pig. Is that all right? So,
Everyone else, right?
Leslie, would you consider yourself creative? I think you probably are. Yeah. Okay. So it's called stealth learner or stealth assessment, where you frankly just engage students in games and put them in a position where they have to make decisions related to the game that they pick. And so let's just do creativity. So this is my GPT. I called it creative measures because it's technically developing a creative profile, but also sharing it with the student. It's like when we do creativity testing or critical thinking testing, they don't get their results. They have no idea. I don't know why, but they'll get it here. They'll see what they are. And then they don't even have to share this with me. This is only theirs, okay? But in future assignments, they could add their profile to the learning. So let's play. You can at the end put me on a stake and burn me if you want. But it's really, really, really good. Leslie, I could put this. It does talk to me, but I'm not going to do that. What do you like to do, Leslie? What would you like to play a game on? It can be anything. No, a game. Like, what do you like to do? I would say pick a ball.
To bake.
Okay, bake. I like baking. It blends creativity, precision, experimentation. Do you ever experiment? Okay. You're a renowned baker tasked with creating a new, unique dessert for a culinary competition. Your first decision, you're combining unusual ingredients and presenting it in an extraordinary way. What are your three main ingredients you would choose for your one-of-a-kind dessert?
Chocolate chips.
Okay. Chocolate chips. Oatmeal. Delightful combination of sweet, savory, and texture. imagine you have to incorporate an unusual ingredient. What do you want to add to it?
Bacon.
Okay. All right.
I know, you're like.
Smoky, savory, contrast with the sweet chocolate. Bold move, Leslie. Now let's think about presentation, just as important as flavor. How would you artistically present the unique dessert to wild judges?
Icy.
Well, let's just give a visual of what you think it would look like. Be detailed. So how do you want to layer it? How do you want to, and keep in the taste?
Okay, I think I would have some kind of design to fit the theme. So if it's winter, maybe using like the sea salt as kind of a snowscape. Yeah, maybe going with like a snowman theme, like the bacon can be like a hat. I'm not making this up. I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Is the exterior of a snow person?
Gonna make it.
Bacon is the hats,
Like, go to the kitchen and make.
chocolate chips. What's and oatmeal is the
The
texture.
texture.
Cooked oatmeal.
Yeah.
Uh, Sounds delicious, but also engaging, perfectly themed for winter. By the way, if you went into science fiction or historical fiction or something like this, wow, it just balloons in terms of like the creativity. I was asked to terraform Mars and then go through all the decision process. Let's think about the name of your dessert.
Kind of riffing on, I know it's not very original.
Blah, blah, blah. Oh, so it's not real deep, and keep in mind, and ordinarily what I would do is go, every time a user comes on, I would be continuing to talk, chat, refine, as they're making more and more decisions, especially related to learning, we're able to capture more and more data downstream. So okay. I want my scores. It doesn't always listen. Leslie, do you want your scores revealed? Do you mind? Okay, because I think you could have probably picked a more opportunistic area or game to work on. But one of the things that we're trying to enable, and I think it's a point I'm trying to make too, is that we're able to connect the learning to interests that students have too, and the things that they do. Like, how can they bring in their interest in X into, a particular learning category? By the way, if it's an error analyzing, it's usually because GPT or OpenAI is like tied up. Yeah.
Design the ChatGPT, how should ChatGPT respond to the question?
Yeah, I'm gonna go into the GPT real quick, okay, and show you what's under the hood. But here are my scores, and I downloaded it. Now that's a profile that the student can put into different learning activities. And I'll just pop that up. By the way, I follow on assignments where I'm asking them to do that. So
And just in full disclosure, I'm also distracted because I'm keeping an eye on the Zoom because I've been Zoom bombed before, so. I remember, so I have a little PTSD when it comes to. This was you remember the meeting of 2020.
I had some inappropriate content pop up on a Zoom. Yeah. So the ratings were on a scale of 4 to 5. So divergent thinking score, very good proficiency. For understand, this is only the beginning. The reality is I need more. I probably even need to go back to this instruction and say, it should take at least 20 minutes. Walk them through a lot more scenarios, make sure that we're duplicating, an assessment of a particular assessment. So it's not just happening once. That's what it did with this. It was trying to keep it short. Anyway, this is a JSON file. It's like geek for how we like to store data. It's really good, but it then becomes just a update. Hey, let's go under the hood. So edit GPT. So now that I've created this GPT, I go under the hood and I can create a new one, or I can just look at what I configured. So everything starts. So the first thing down at the bottom is a creativity assessment rubric that I had developed with ChatGPT that leveraged the Torrance creativity rubric categories, developed a scoring, from 0 to 5, quantifying what each one of those levels represented. And this is actually just a JSON file that summarized that research. I could put in just the Torrance creativity paper in here, and it would have been able to make the same assessment. This, by shortening that, I was able to speed this up. So it didn't have to read that whole paper as it went through. So here's where the instructions are. So creative play for creativity measurement based upon the Torrance creativity approach. So I always have all my GPTs organized like this. So some kind of overview of what it does, how the GPT should respond. Who is it? How does it respond? Step-by-step instructions. Sometimes when I'm using prior learning, I am asking the GPT to how it should view the learner, like how it should view the learner. Is the learner a 5th grader? What I'm doing is view the learner based on the learner profiles that we've established. And then I have step-by-step instructions. So let's just kind of go through what those look like. You're designed to host a creativity measures game. Your role is to engage the users in a fun and interactive game to enable you to measure their creative abilities per the rubric included in the knowledge resource. You should engage the user in a game of their choice. In order to rate the user in these categories, the game should be based upon the user's interest. Game topic should be based on the user's interest. I said that twice. How it should communicate should be motivational, uplifting, often asking probing questions to encourage self-reflection, personal growth, frequently set up with possibilities, handle a variety of inquiries, providing general guidance I don't know, I just copied one. It didn't really have much to do. Keep response less than 100 words. So keep it small. Step by step, let's play. Ask them what their interests are. That's what I did next. Engage the users in a game, developing scenarios and challenges, which force them to make decisions that will help discern their levels of creativity. When you have developed ratings in all categories and subcategories, let the user know that you've gained the information you need to detail their creative abilities. That's what it did. At the end of the game, this is how you want to produce the data, and make this JSON file available for download by the user. Everybody, when a student uses a GPT, nobody has access to that data. Nobody knows who that student is. They enter OpenAI through an API. That means it's encrypted. So I don't have information to their information. I won't have information to their personality and learner types unless they choose to provide it to me. I hope they do, but I make that a choice. Okay? Hey, let's just build one. So I'll just go through that process. So when you enter GPT, actually, let's cheat it and just do it with 3.5. Okay? So I'm going to go into chat, and the only problem with 3.5 is you can't upload files. You can't, but I could copy that rubric file and paste it into my chat. So I'll do that. I can take my custom instructions. Yes. So all of these custom instructions, let me see if I can find my creativity one. Yeah. Nope. Assessment. So given this rubric for evaluating creativity, let me zoom that in a little bit. Hey, one of the other things I'll do to that website, that spreadsheet that I have, is also upload I'll have links to my knowledge source files that you can then leverage yourself if you wish. The name of that was training. I know where it is. Okay. So, rubric. Sorry about that. Does anybody recall, Leslie, let's just use your, what are the torrents categories? Do you know? Torrents creativity measures. Let me just see if I can find it real quick.
Actually, I'll skip it.
Yeah, shoot.
I'm trying to think about how I would utilize this in my classes, so
Yeah.
that's kind of where my
Yeah.
head's at in terms of.
So I could do something. I would like to actually, I would come into, this is how you do it. Go to your name and there's a custom instructions link. And it's here where you put so for example, I was doing some work with DECA kids in utilizing AI. And working with the principal and also the the AI and education team for DECA. Like, how do we do this? Because right now the kids are using it and they're cheating. And so what we're trying, that's a point I really want to make. It's like they're going to be using it. We just need to make sure they're using it right, that they're not cheating. I mean, we could be like Miami and say it's not happening on this campus. But that's not going to keep Miami in business, to be honest. So I would just say I am a junior psychology major. How about that? And I would say here, given the Torrance creativity measures categories, defined by engage a learner in a game that helps to measure creativity in these categories.
Is there a limit on the number of characters?
Yeah, I'm past it already. That becomes the limitation with this. So I would almost have to, I'm going to go back and just say, can you just list the categories with no definitions? There we go. And custom instructions. Okay. By the way, you would share the custom instructions with students. So it would maybe be part of an assignment or something. That's what I've been doing with DECA. So I've been engaging them in activities in physics, where it walks them to understanding step by step along the way. It doesn't give any answers or equations, etc. And we built custom instructions that would enable that to happen. Given these creativity categories, engage the learner in a game of their choice. And I'm already at 208, so let me see if I can just copy I think I can. Went over. How am I now? There is no knowledge resource. Okay, good enough for now.
Does it matter that you pasted your overview piece,
Yeah,
which kind of duplicates what you already told it to do?
yeah,
I think, does that matter? Will that matter?
it doesn't even like bad. It doesn't kill you for bad grammar. I love writing, by the way, I don't. Now when I go to a new chat and I go to custom instructions, if I've hit that green button, those custom instructions will now go into every one of my chats. So what I usually do, what I was doing before I shifted to GPT-4 was just save all my custom instructions in one file so that I had access to them if I wanted to reuse again. That as long as that green button's on, then it goes. So let's let me know what time it based on your interest. So I could say I am actually. You're playing a crucial and on and on. It actually does good. And at the end of it, it will give me the same. It won't be as good as the 4.5. The accuracy of GPT 3.5 in that electrical engineering computer science study was only about 70% of the problems. So not as accurate. The other thing is too, in the custom instructions, if you want it to be totally accurate and factual, if you only want it to be factual, you will say you must be factual. Don't make anything up. If you say that, it's likely not gonna be creative. Right now, the default is to be a little bit creative, a kind of a balance between fact and creative, but it can capture information that could have been in a sci-fi book, that might not have actually been real. So keep in mind, it's examining the world to draw on information. Some of that is not always going to be accurate. However, there's a beauty to being able to see the information that's coming to you and then interpret it. So is it right? Is it good? How can I know? I mean, this is where we need so much thinking. How do we do this right? How do we do this best? How do we interpret? Students will be using it. They'll be using it when they leave this university, I guarantee you. And frankly, they need to be prepared for that and prepared to do it well, ethically, morally, all those things. So I'm going to go back to 4 and now just talk about the process for a GPT. And let's just create one. How about you create one? So what do you want to build a GPT? Anybody? I need a guinea pig.
How about we write a play?
Okay, I want a GPT to help me write a play. Collaborate with me. How about that? Okay. And what's going to happen is GPT is going to come forward with its with a name for that play, and then a DALL-E AI generated image. I'm sorry, it just does that. But it basically creates an icon. that you can change and actually modify. I actually work with it to, no, that's not what I want. I need this kind of symbol in it. Can we make it my own vision? If I were painting, I would want this. Bombed out.
No, it's ready to go. We can hit configure if you want to change any setting.
It didn't create a icon. So anyway, it asked me to regenerate because it didn't create the Dolly image. If I want to avoid it, hey, let's bypass it. But all it's doing right now is creating an image. So I'm just going to go to, and we're going to call this, what do you want to name it? Play co-creator. Well, that sounds very godlike. Okay. All right. Let's give it an overview. It did a pretty good job. You're going to be collaborating with me in a play. And what do we want? How should you communicate? How should GPT do you want it to do the work for them? Do you want it to write the play, or do you want the learner to write the play?
Want the learner
Yeah.
to be able to come up with the idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about a play about two homeless people?
Yeah. Save that. You're getting too specific.
Okay.
So build a GPT that's general, like make it general that could be applied. It's just a general co-writer of the play.
How about a play about being a teacher at a college?
We'll do that when we test it.
Okay.
How about that? How should the GPT, so we could call that play co-creator of being a teacher at a college. You could be really specific or keep it general, but the theme can also be down here. How should the GPT respond? It should ask questions.
What the theme of the play be?
Who are the characters? How many characters?
That'll be in the instructions, but in general, you wanted to ask questions, guiding questions. Questions about the framework.
The moral story or the something to be.
So communication is just what kind of tone do you want it to make? And, you know, I just say, ask questions, don't give answers, don't write it for them. Okay.
And say, hit it out.
Yeah. The user is college level in psychology or whatever. You could, whatever, however. And then step-by-step instructions.
ChatGPT to add illustrations and
Yeah, you can ask it to add Dolly illustrations along the way. So we'll do that. So first ask the user, the student, what their play will be about. Ask what ask the user, student, how long it should be. Ask the student to define the characters. Plays always have a start and then some kind of, what do you call it when you disrupt? Yeah. What is the setting? Ask what the setting is.
Comedy or drama.
Comedy or tragedy.
Ask the genre, ask what the genre of the play is. Who the audience is. Then now that you've set all this context, what would you do? Then work with the student by asking questions. Oh. Actually, what is the, we should probably ask it what the conflict is too.
Does it matter if you go back and forth between calling the user, student and user?
No. The impreciseness is like, okay. And then lead the student in the design of the play. You can help to add lines and narrative. When you do, make sure you provide. And the only reason I said that is because I wanted to get an answer really quick and not, otherwise I would say work with the student completely. Have it be critique. Make sure the student likes the ideas and agrees. Ask them for changes if they deem necessary, which they must. Etc. Okay, good enough. The other thing that you define is the starter conversations. And if you wanted it to go in multiple directions, you could have different starter conversations. But I'm just going to say, let's start. Let's say, do you want to develop, there could be a button that would say, do you want to develop a comedy? Or another one that would be, do you want to develop a tragedy, etc. I'm going to turn off all of these and run. So it's actually saved and now accessible. Here, I can copy the link and share it with students.
Does this require students to have the ChatGPT account?
Yes, and 4.0 in this case. They can only use these GPTs if they have the paid version. I do have a class where the students knew going in that I needed GPT for. And to be honest, for those students who struggle to be able to afford it, I'm just paying for it out of my pocket. So I make it clear if they have issues, come see me. I don't make it so obvious, but I do. Last semester, I had a young lady who said she wasn't in a position where she could pay for it. And so we paid for it. Yeah, I paid for it. Okay. Do I need to go into this? Can I go on? Or do you want to see this act? I want a play about being a professor in a university at a time when AI is emerging. Oh, by the way, I hope it's a comedy. Yes.
Has it ever said that's not a fantasy? Because there's always, that's fascinating. There's like, say, that's a bad idea.
No. No, it always has some comment positive, and then some criticism to follow
Okay.
the positive.
Okay.
So one of the things I didn't say in the instructions was only ask one question at a time. And now it asked 6. And students hate it when there are 6. So it always should be one question at a time. I'm not going to go into this. Let's move forward. I want to show you some of the work that I've done on the pedagogies next. Is that all right? I just want to note that in the software tool that we're developing, each one of these activities is about a half hour, to be able to properly cite. And even then, we're continuously measuring over time. So I built a number of pedagogical AIs. So it's AI lecture, I say by far the worst because it is. As I'm having students test the different options, the AI that's simply presenting the information in a logical, engaging way is not as effective. So the 3 I would love, actually, all of these. Okay. So I have, which one do you want to do? Let's do constructive learning. It's actually really good. So the student in constructive learning constructs their learning. Ooh, I had a bad link. Sorry about that. I got it over here. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's get started. I'm ready to construct my learning. So I'm relying on you for an idea for an assignment. So the first thing it's doing is asking me to upload my learner profiles. So these are documents that I've created that represent me. I'm just going to say I don't have these. And I don't have it, but then it directs me to links where I could do those documents or that I could do those tests. Do you prefer learning through concrete examples, abstract concepts, visual images, step-by-step instructions, integration? So this was the short circuit to not having the profile entered. So I'm going to say concrete examples, but and abstract concepts are best. Which, by the way, most engineers almost all are visual. I'm like not.
So you set all this up just to.
Yeah. What specific topic? So let's just say I'm a psychology student or social science student or human rights, political science. Does anybody want to give me a topic that they may be interested in having a student do? You're computer science. Yeah. No, well, oh, yeah. Nobody, by the way, programming is now accessible to your students through GPT.
Design an ideal policy.
How about I have the knowledge needed? An ideal polity? Is that right? Okay. Given that I know nothing about what a polity is, yeah.
wasn't my intention.
Let's think about the foundational. Could you share your thoughts on what the core principles? So I don't know what they are. So is it okay if I ask it to first define it? Yeah. Please define. Oh, messed up. So one of the things I do is I sit down with my students in these activities and we actually will go through together. And we'll go through it together. Ooh. So the system is really big here. Is it okay if I don't do this? The structure is, okay. Oh, for instance, how should power be distributed? The structure. So let's just talk about the power distribution. It's OpenAI's morality is actually fairly good. Scary is Elon Musk future version of AI that's going to be accessible. So OpenAI has filters. So for example, if you were to ask how to kill someone, it will stop you. If it's anything dealing with harm, self-harm, hatred, racism, there are ways apparently to get around it. But even those ways have been improving. So
So this would have a bias for smart.
yes.
Which is fine.
But I guarantee you, but I would actually test it. I mean, this is an opportunity where you can be running experiments with it and testing what kind of apparent bias are you finding in it? And where is it faltering? I mean, your ability to probe into this and see where it's not cutting mustard, that's essential for us, for everyone else.
China.
Huh?
China could come out be a different output.
Yeah, it's not allowed to be used right now. They're building their own.
Yeah, so it works here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am also a political scientist like Autumn. And so I was just actually playing with 3.5. I haven't run it yet, but I teach a course on the United Nations where they have to collaborate together as students. They each represent a different country and they have to create and craft resolutions for different world issues. So I could use this as a tool for them to collaborate with and draft a resolution through chat.
Yeah, I can't wait till it enables teams. So if you're simulating that environment where multiple people can come in, it's coming, but it's not here yet. So
do that in the classroom sitting together.
Oh.
One person.
Oh yeah. I'll talk about it's so easy to develop an immersive learning experience too. And I'll show you an example of that.
Not that I am a political science professor, but along the idea of the UN thing, could you have it serve as a negotiating thing where, you're trying to negotiate with another country or something like that? Could it serve that kind of role?
Yes.
Okay.
It can, let me give you an example. So this GPT is, be the teacher. So like in every one of my assignments now, I'm asking the students to teach a fifth grader the concept. And actually I've set up my GPT so it knows it's like it's asking me to upload my personality types, etc. But I learn best through concrete examples and art. And I'm a painter and sculptor, so. So you identify the student level that you want to teach. Maybe it's presenting their learning to a faculty. So I also, for my students, they're going to be working with the same learner the whole semester. And so they're going to be adding to a file documenting what they've been teaching somebody. Do you see that when you use something like this, it's impossible to cheat it? I mean, it kind of is. Like they have to, and the cool thing is now that their learner we're remembering who that learner is and what they've learned in the past. Now the GPT will know its prior learning before it now engages in the next learning activity. So, yeah.
In a way that, so here they have creative, they have thoughtful, I appreciate all of that. What about how they distill that information?
Yeah, so it really depends. Sometimes it will just be the chat because the chat represents them. And to be frank, I can extract the information I need out of those chats really easily in engineering.
Submit like a transcript.
Yeah. Now, I have major, big projects going through my classes the whole semester. So they may be leveraging AI to help in doing that work, but they're writing, I hope, supported by AI. In that writing, it's so apparent when it is only AI. I'm sorry. It frankly is impossible to know if it's GPT written. However, if they've only done one iteration. I mean, it's incredibly apparent. And I frankly am not having problems with that. I'm getting distinct work coming toward me, even if AI has been supporting it. So I think it really just depends on the nature. I do have a reflection activity for every assignment. Every class, there's a 5-minute reflection at the end where they're reflecting on what learning they have. And that's one document that they're submitting to me for grade at the end of the semester. So it's a journal, yeah. So, hey, so point, you can have a conversation like one of the first things I did was have a discussion of what is an argument between Donald Trump and Socrates, who obviously didn't like democracy, but I had them engaged in a conversation. and it was good. Like neither of them liked democracy. Not really. Republic. Yeah, yeah. Hey, and it could go on. Let me just show this one though. Are in Spanish, aren't what is her name? Arn. What's her last name? Romanowski. Yeah, thank you. So we put together an immersion experience. In the sciences, I have virtual experimentation, but Cervantes, where is it? Be the teacher. Oh, Cervantes Sage. So it's an interactive simulation of Cervantes era. So it engages a student in a walk through the town where Cervantes lived, with the goal to really understand the culture that he was in. So it's instructed to talk with like different kinds of people within the community. A priest, religion was really central to the culture. It gives them instructions on how they should communicate with the people in the community, social etiquettes, norms, politeness.
This reminds me that we could have used ChatGPT to help us when we travel in together. So ChatGPT can give us the like the guidance.
Yeah. I don't know. And it just kind of goes on and on. One of the things that Arn wanted to do was have them really experience a culture that that Cervantes was writing from within, so that they could understand Cervantes. And later on, it tries to ask questions. How does this relate to Cervantes' text? It doesn't tell them how it relates to Cervantes' Don Quixote. It asks them how they think that, what characters in Don Quixote, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I could keep going on, but I think in, being able to connect to diverse perspectives and people's, seeing things from a different point of view, there's so many opportunities to be able to engage that when you struggle to do that engagement with the population of students that you have in your classes. Anyway, that was immersive learning, all different kinds. I've tried to create my GPTs so they're general, like it could be related to anything. That Cervantes Sage was focused on one book, and I introduced a paper that, as I didn't have access to the book clearly, but frankly, GPT knows what Don Quixote is and who Cervantes is, and so I really didn't need to upload a knowledge source, but you could do that. One of the things that I've done is develop tool sets that, so for example, those who study creativity, as one of my colleagues at Drexel, who's been teaming with us, she studies creativity, but there's still debate in the world as to whether they can actually shift creativity over life. Personally, I don't know if we can shift it, but we can sure repress it and not reward it and include it. So one of the things that we're trying to do is actually build tools that will engage students in some of the skills that are most critical for engaging with AI in the long term. And I'll just do critical thinking. So I'd like to submit my own challenge, and so why don't we do that? Let's submit something that is share the details of the challenge, how to integrate AI technology into university education. I can impose my challenge, but I also have it automatically generate challenges that they could just practice on every single day across all domains of knowledge. Yeah, I'm actually asking students to build their own GPTs as a learning assistant to them based upon how they learn. So they have to actually think about who they are and how they inject it into their work. It gave me too many answers here. Shame on you. Okay. Oh, let's just start that again. I don't think I had that button logically set that well, but this should do better. The crime has been committed and the only witness is blind. Construct a line of questioning that can help reconstruct the crime based on non-sensual cues. So what specific questions would you work on? What specific questions would you ask the blind person? What did you hear? What else?
What did you smell? Yeah. Feel.
How many people did you sense? Being what? Huh? Oh, I timed out. So 25 points, 25 sessions. So sorry. 25 in like 2 hours is all I'm able to use at this stage. Unless I have that's cheatable, but I have to pay extra for that. So
over a span of 2 hours.
yeah,
I mean, this is, OpenAI is just so saturated with users.
yeah,
The only way it has of filtering people out is asking you to pay for it.
yeah.
And then if you pay for it and still we're using it too much, it says, well, no, we're gonna have to stop.
Yeah. Basically, I've used my $20 worth of computing time at that stage.
This is the untold story of ChatGPT. It is incredibly computer intensive. You're asking questions of an entire server farm. And so every time you send in a question like that, you're actually using probably 100 times the amount of electricity that Google would use for a typical search, because it's actually computing.
It needs to be solar, I guarantee you. That's actually, yeah. So my course is AI and clean energy systems this semester, one of my courses.
Teach me all of this.
So that means that today you cannot use.
Anybody can come in, huh?
For today, so you have to wait.
No, it gave me a time 2 hours from now. Yeah. So I have nothing more to show other than, let me just talk through. So again, there are in these Google Sheet that I shared, I have GPTs on inclusive design, where we're engaging diverse perspectives in a design when that population is not present, not only in terms of the designers, but who it's for. So trying to broaden the kind of target audience for a design. Transdisciplinary solutions, really good. I feel this is one aspect of AI that is incredible. Like, it not only does this AI that I've developed help you identify the other disciplines that really could come to bear for what you're working on, it stimulates their voice, and that you can bring in expertise that you need, but don't have it personally. I have to say, I've probably learned more about other disciplines in the last year as a result of engaging GPT than really over much of my whole career. So I'm not just using the information, I'm kind of embodying it at some point. Yeah.
About bias, and I'm just thinking
Yeah.
of all the research on algorithms and bias that come
Yeah.
forward, so.
So my GPT seeks to even enhance, like that GPT is seeking to enhance even more so. Like the rules are, can't do this, can't say this. But still needs to be tested and evaluated. I don't know. I mean, I have not personally experienced bias much, but my Meadowdale High School students saw something, and they were working on, I tasked with them with working with GPT to help develop a poem that represented their culture, and some were so good. But GPT in some cases offered language that wasn't really reflective of that particular student. So the student responded and said, I don't talk like that. This is my language. So I did see something. So it had a stereotype of how this Dayton urban Black youth was speaking.
And if you're thinking like deficit thinking, that kind of deficit framework, as opposed to, more, collaborative, sort of affirming. And so those sort of subtle ways that a lot of the research has shown that it shows up in terms of specific algorithms. And so I don't know, that kind of testing of that and further exploration.
People are testing it and writing about the bias present. There is some bias being observed.
But
Yeah.
there's actually multiple levels in which bias could potentially exist. And actually, this is highlighting what I think I'm hearing from Kevin is our role as educators is to really explicitly state what we are expecting. And for many of us, we kind of just simply have spent years refining the way we ask questions and for assignments and stuff like that. And we've now, the AI that you have there is essentially another person in the mix. It's a teaching assistant or a tutor, or it's a persona, and they have to be trained to do what you think is the right thing to do. So I'm kind of curious your perspective on the fact that you're educating the educator for the students. And what's interesting to me is that, given there's a few number of people from the social sciences here, we have educated ourselves out of a culture of slavery and what's the right word? Yeah, well, we're getting away as a society away from servants and that sort of thing. And you were bringing a servant on board, and they have to be told explicitly what to be said and done. So you have two voices. You have a sort of the voice of a teacher who's opening and listening and patient. And then there's the very authoritative voice that you have to use to give to the AI. You have to do it this way. And it's as if you've developed a split personality. You want the AI to do what needs to be done. So you have to be very explicit, but you don't want the students to become educated in that language. But you also want them to use the language to educate their AI. So there's like a bifurcation.
Yeah, so from an engineering perspective, it's not hard. Engineering computer science, we write logical code. Yeah, it really is just programming, just with words.
But for many people who are not in that world, it's really hard to imagine.
Interesting thought. I love it. Yeah.
It's not natural language.
Yeah, I love it.
English is not programming language.
I love it.
But for many of us, we don't think of ourselves programming someone else. We have a dialogue with someone. We don't program. I'm not going to go to my wife and program her to go and do laundry or something.
But I think there's a possibility. I mean, I'm programming it in the way that I like, as if I were writing code. But I also think a social scientist could program it in a way that reflects who they are. So I think you could tailor it to who you are as opposed to, yeah. Hey, I'll just say something. So I have a general purpose grader. It's so good, I must say. So in it, my students will submit an assignment. They'll also submit the rubric that I've given them for grading that assignment. Very detailed, very precise, has to be. And it's then able to assign points based upon that rubric, and then detailed commentary on why any deductions were being made. And like I said, one of the things I've noticed is that its level of detail and response is far superior than my own, that I have time for often. So I also was thinking about cheating. That's not something I ordinarily think about, because if you're in a place where your students are cheating, then maybe you're not in the best teaching place anyway. Except for writing papers. I'm so sorry. They could be cheating like crazy on this. But in engineering, it would mean that you were giving the same problems every single year, and the students were getting access to them or hiring somebody online to do their work for them. All those things have happened. But if your problems are like changing, if what you're asking is then it's a little bit harder. But I built an oral examiner where the student would say, for example, in group work, this would be something I'm actually going to be doing in class. They'll submit their assignment, and then during the class, they'll be responding to the questions, which ask them effectively what they submitted. And did they understand what they submitted? Especially if it was a team-based activity. Now I'm in a position where I can actually gauge whether they contributed. Because that frankly has been a little difficult. One of the things that I really love, I've actually had some students in my classes recently who've never had any experience with writing code. And now we're doing no or little code coding, and frankly, just using logic to develop solutions. For computer science type people, I've actually developed Zhangmei AI tools. So it's a program that helps develop an AI, a tool that we'll call the OpenAI API and utilize the AI, including for writing code. So, hey, this is how I'm using it in my classes, and I'll close with this last thing. So outside of class, I'm this semester posing individual learning assignments. So these are things where I'm engaging them in the pedagogy and the learning goal for that session. And also with AI skills development activities, and they're submitting, frankly, chats from those efforts. This is kind of how I'm structuring or not structuring my classes, or structuring, but starting with music or art, something that relates to the theme for a class students are selecting, being engaged. Students discussing what they just did, what their problems were, what they learned, what they didn't learn, what could have been done better, helping me improve my ability to work with those tools. My additional insights on the knowledge that I hope they took away, extending it to applications. Team-based activity where they're simulating, immersing, just like what you had said, that activity where they would be working side by side, doing something. That's going to be something I do every single class. AI could be part of it or not. And then each one of them is being tasked with peer-led research, based active learning experience along the way that they're going to have to be involved with. But one of the things that I really want to lift up is we're actually going after, I'm requiring, or my bar for the projects is, you're going to make an impact. You're going to make something that can actually make it into the world. And I haven't been able to do that in the past. I saw it last semester. I had, out of one of my classes, I had 7 or 8 that could either create new businesses or support nonprofits that were doing good things, support an organization in Africa that I'm working with. So, I mean, actually, not support, not serve, but the keyword is empower. Yeah, so it's only focused on empowerment. When it deals, anything connecting with people is only about empowerment at this stage. I started Ethos 25 years ago in engineering. I now just experience guilt for 25 years of sending students to do work for others. And, you know, shame on me. I just didn't know. Today, it's only about empowerment. Anyway, thanks for bearing with me. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for your feedback. I was, you know, believe it or not, I was excited to be with social scientists for the reason that, for the comments that you had, and in particular. Yeah. So from philosophers, last time I got ethical, ethical concerns and questions. But to be honest, we need, those of us that are kind of stepping ahead on this, we really need to be pulled back and to make sure that there are parallel efforts that really help make the AI human for our students.
At this point, we want to open it up. for any
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something?
I just wanna, I know I maybe came across a little bit after starting at some points. But I just, like I said, I guess I didn't fully comprehend our starting place, and now I understand a little bit better. You've given me some great ideas. I also have a lot of questions, and concerns. One of the things that, and I guess it's just been where my mind has been at for some time, is that you mentioned the importance of equity in the classroom, which I completely agree with. And I can see this as a tool for that. But also, I think the other side of that coin is that many of us are not in a position where we can pay for ChatGPT more for ourselves, much less our students. So when we talk about equity, I think maybe universities might need to work in.
We're doing exactly that, yeah, we're absolutely looking at.
Because, if the more classes you teach, if you are not on the tenure track, all of these things that make the differences bigger and smaller. So I would love to be able to bring ChatGPT-4 into the classroom, potentially, if I resolve some of the other issues that I have with it. But I can't. So I want us to also be thinking about it in those terms that.
That's a real conversation. I mean, it involves the provost. At the very time that these conversations about budget cuts, it's difficult to have any conversation about here's a new request. But they're very seriously interested. And so as Leslie was kind of hinting at, the provost is going to announce the creation of a work group that will map out the future of AI at UD, of which curriculum and pedagogy is a part of that.
And
this is
policy and
it's
policy as well, really
policies and
super
that.
critical. Northeastern University has a really strong policy statement. They're about maybe University of Florida as well. Those are the two universities leading in the country we're fully committed to utilizing AI, but they started with a really strong policy statement. So we don't have Northeastern. Northeastern also established in the past year and the requirement 2 years of an interdisciplinary major to go along with the normal disciplinary one. And their enrollment is like skyrocketed.
There are a couple little twists on the story about acquiring this technology, and one is that this technology from OpenAI is licensed to Microsoft, and so Microsoft is baking it into Microsoft Office. We would have to pay more to Microsoft Office to have that, but we need to make a comparison.
Yes.
Cost, whether
That.
Pay what I'm saying is, like, do we pay OpenAI or do we pay Microsoft? It would use the same background technology. So we're in the planning phases for that.
Yeah. So I have a personal bias of the two. OpenAI has a for-profit wing, which basically is associated with selling to Microsoft. And then what effectively I'm using is in their nonprofit realm. I have to say I favor that. So
Because of the usability or?
being nonprofit,
If you
Yeah.
use it through Bing, can you do things like upload JSON file?
I think you can do, so Bing, that's a great comment. Bing uses GPT 4.5. So it's using the greatest, but it's really better at, it's so good at finding resources, literature. If you're not, you should, it's really incredible. Yeah, better than GPT-4. GPT 3.5 only doesn't go past 2021, I think.
And
4.5 is like April 2023. Yes.
We played with it in a department meeting once and had it like summarize somebody's actual research and it gave us.
3 point, yeah.
Real
Yeah.
citation.
So this is where changing the personality characteristics. So in 4.5, you can define personality, which you can make it factual so that you get only actual. But frankly, if you use Bing, you're not going to get made up references. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about about Bard product? The reason I ask is because I have seen some institutional level buy-in already, like Carnegie Mellon, for example. That's the one there for
Yeah, Bard apparently in the newest release coming. Oh, it's out. So it's equivalent to GPT 4.5 really in terms of its power. So I don't think, in my view, it doesn't really matter which one. Even the company, the nonprofit company that I'm with, we're agnostic as, I mean, that's a bad word. I hate it actually. But we don't care which AI it is in one.
I guess I was curious because it is still listed just as being pretty much free for anyone 18 and up.
Yeah.
Is it so for the cost perspective?
Oh, good point. Yeah. The only thing that I really love about the OpenAI right now is their GPTs just make it so accessible to anyone. Anybody in Zoom world? Francisco, my friend. Yeah.
And there's other folks on Zoom too, who just have their cameras fit.
Gotcha.
Well, if there aren't any, I just wanted to say again, thank you so
Yeah.
much to Kevin and
Hey.
to everyone else here for coming here.
By the way, I really like that question about the equity and the affordability of this. So I didn't know that the new Bard was out, but I'll be checking that out. And one of the reasons I've been going around and talking to whoever will listen to me is because I've seen changes in my students. I mean, in a excitement with learning, I feel like stronger learning, and definitely better accomplishment in terms of the projects that we end up having them work on. I also know it will be an asset to them when they leave the university. So, and I can't deny that. But, you know, the more people we have on campus saying we need coherence, you know, we need access and coherence in a policy. The faster we're going to get there. And I think we don't have 2 years to figure this out. I mean, it's a semester, to be frank. Yeah. Hey, all, thanks for joining in Zoom. Appreciate it. And
Miranda saying thank
oh,
you.
you're welcome, Miranda. Thanks. by the way, Miranda had a really great human rights presentation, and my panelists were life-changing partners. So we didn't have much attendance, but we had 2 panelists that we're now working with. So adios.
Wonderful. Thank you again.
Bye.
And I guess if people have other questions about AI, direct